Here in Queen's Park with Extinction Rebellion demanding our government act on the duty of care and acknowledge the climate crisis and get cracking on reducing emissions. Because time's run out and peaceful civil disobedience is our last hope. What you do at this point of time, it matters. You want to be able to get to the end of your life and say that you did everything that you could to turn this around.
I don't know how these kids were, but they were saying, I was here, 3 years ago, saying the same thing.
And our politicians, how can another term of power be more important than a livable planet for our children? How can shareholder profits be more important than a livable future for our children? How can we let denial and ignorance and inertia win when what is at stake is a livable planet for our children? Nothing matters more than this. I teach my kids to look both ways before they cross the road. I buckle them into their car seats. I teach them to call 000 and never to dive into the shallow end of the pool, and I teach them that if they're out and they get lost, then they should look with a mum with kids to help them. But I cannot keep my kids safe on my own. This is a group effort, and it should be, because we have formed a society where we are supposed to care and protect each other. So how are we here? This is an emergency. It's really hard to hold on to that when you're making dinner and changing nappies and getting up in the night again, and when it feels like nothing is happening around you. It's also hard to act on that when you're just terrified about what it means for your children's future. And you're so scared that them understanding the truth of what it means for them will break them. But this is an emergency, and nothing matters more than this, and we need our government to act like it. So if our government refuses to act on their duty of care, it's our duty to rebel. Right. Love and rage. So if I end up having to do lots of little videos, that's what I'll have to do. Because needs must, when the government refuses to recognise that they have a duty of care to protect our children, then it's our duty to rebel. That's how democracy works when it's gotten a little so-so bent, the way that it has in Australia these days. So we're here today in Meanjin, so-called Brisbane, to push the government to act on their duty of care, to take climate action, to address the climate and ecological emergency that we find ourselves in and that they refuse to acknowledge. Because acknowledgement would mean action, and action might mean not getting another turn of power. You might have to be a little patient with me today because I have my smallest rebel along with me. And first and foremost, I'm a mother, so I got to take care of her, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So a lot of people will be aware that last year Suzanne Ley, who is the Federal Environment Minister, was taken to court by a group of 8 children, assisted by a nun, to assert the fact that our government has a duty of care to recognise the potential harms that they are causing to the future generations through extraction of fossil fuels. A policeman mini. Another request of the suit was that the expansion of the Whitehaven Vickery mine get blocked. So there was a landmark ruling in this case. The judge actually did find that our government has a duty of care to consider the safety of our children. I'm going to read you part of the ruling because I think it's so powerful that it deserves to be properly represented. He said, "It's difficult to characterise in a single phrase the devastation that the plausible evidence presented in this proceeding forecasts for the children. As Australian adults know their country, Australia will be lost, and the world as we know it gone as well. The physical environment will be harsher, far more extreme, and devastatingly brutal when angry. As for the human experience, quality of life, opportunities to partake in nature's treasures, the capacity to grow and prosper, all will be greatly diminished. Lives will be cut short, trauma will be far more common, and good health harder to hold and maintain. None of this will be the fault of nature itself. It will largely be inflicted by the inaction of this generation of adults in what might fairly be described as the greatest intergenerational injustice ever inflicted by one generation of humans upon the next. So those are the words of Justice Bromberg in the case brought by Sharma and the kids of Australia. So despite finding that the government did have a duty of care, the judge did not bar the extension of the mine. And so Suzanne Ley barreled on ahead and approved the mine expansion, and then she just trolled out the good old drug dealer's excuse saying, well, if we weren't pumping that carbon into the air, then someone else would be. Shameful. You would like some food? Here you go, Minnie. Sorry for the snack packet sound effects. Mum on the job. So this week, Suzanne Ley is back in court fighting for the right to harm our children. They know the damage they're causing and they're going to do it anyway. I was actually reading some of a description of the legal arguments that are coming out of the appeal, and there was an argument saying that the act that the Justice Bromberg's finding was based on was appropriate if you were considering harm to a possum or a parrot, but apparently is not applicable to an existential crisis. So I don't know about you, but that seems like splitting hairs to me when we should be evacuating, doing everything we can, because nothing matters more than this. So I'm here today with my youngest, who is 3 years old. And here is a super unfun fact. 10% of historical global carbon emissions have happened in her 3 years of life. So that's not a problem that's slowing down. That's not a problem where we're seeing the danger and putting on the brakes. We are barreling full speed. And at the moment, we're seeing that Australia might actually make a better carbon reduction than our government has promised by 2030, but it's going to be in spite of our government, because the federal government isn't doing nothing. You comfy there, Minnie? Do you need a drink? I'm going to put it here where you can reach it. And then we'll do some bubbles. Yeah, you can. It's a present for you. What was that? More bubbles. Nothing wrong with more bubbles, right, Min? I find it really hard to understand why climate action's controversial, because I feel like whatever your value system, you can argue for climate action. I mean, traditionally it's been in the realm of environmentalism, but if you have conservative family values, then you're worried about what you're leaving for your kids, right? Even capitalism wants climate action. Matt Keane, who is the new Treasurer of New South Wales and was the Environment Minister just a few short weeks ago, said it doesn't matter if you believe in climate change, if you believe in capitalism, because actually transitioning is good business.
Hi, I'm here today today because, I mean, really, federal government, Susan Ley, is that really the best you can do? You know, I can understand that you go, we don't have a duty of care, but to actually appeal to waste our money and time appealing against it, it's just absolutely ridiculous. You know, we have an emergency, it's a crisis.
All right.
You know, it's unthinkable what our government is doing, and really, are they going to act with the kind of emergency, you know, the emergency response that is needed? You know, I doubt. I've just been reading Greg Mullins, you know, the retired fire chief. He's quoting research that says that in 2040, a fire like the Black Summer will be average, and by 2060 that will be a cold summer. It's just insane. We need an emergency response, and we've just got to keep doing this to wake our government and everybody, the people, not relying on the government, just to wake our fellow citizens up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for being here today, Sue.
Respect to elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd like everyone to take a second and close their eyes. Think about the children in your life. Maybe you have children of your own, grandchildren, nieces or nephews. Maybe you're a teacher or a counselor or a pediatrician. Take a minute and allow yourself to feel the tremendous love and care you have for those children. Feel the importance of seeing those children flourish. Feel the joy of imagining them living a happy life in a safe and sustainable future. Feel the magnitude of the current environmental crisis and the threat that it poses to their future. As we engage in today's action, I want you all to hold these feelings. Use these feelings to give you courage and to inspire you. Use them to give you the power to take up space and send a message loud and clear. We have a duty of care. We have a duty to act. Now, some people may be wondering what this duty of care messaging is all about. In May of this year, a class action case was brought on behalf of Australian children against Federal Environment Minister Susan Ley. The federal court, in a landmark judgment on climate change, ruled that the Environment Minister owes a duty of care to young people, not to cause them physical harm in the form of personal injury from climate change. The federal court found that 1 million children are expected to be hospitalized in Australia alone because of a heat stress episode. They found that substantial
Can you let me know how the sound
loss
is?
will be experienced, and that the Great Barrier
Just give me a
Reef
thumbs up
and
or a
most of
thumbs down.
Australia's eucalypt forest will cease to exist by the time today's children reach adulthood. The court found that this harm is real, it is catastrophic, and it is reasonably foreseeable based on current climate change projections. Lives will be cut short, trauma will be far more
Thank you,
common,
Nadia.
and good health will be harder to hold and maintain. In response to this court ruling, our Environment Minister, Susan Ley, is fighting back. She is actively arguing for the right to harm children.
Shame! 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 Absolute shame!
Susan Ley plays a key role in the approval of new and expanding fossil fuel projects. It is a national embarrassment that she is disputing the need to account for dangerous emissions and the impact on young people when considering fossil fuel projects. In the last month alone, Susan Ley has given the green light to greenhouse gases, with 3 new coal projects being approved across Australia, set to release millions of tons of CO2 in the atmosphere and accelerate catastrophic climate change. With power comes responsibility. Susan Ley's responsibility
Gotta love a
is for the
Spider-Man
people.
quote.
However, she seems to have forgotten
Nice
this,
one, Kerry.
choosing
Good one
instead
for the kids.
to favor fossil fuel interests. We are calling on Susan
Sorry,
Ley
it's a
to
bit bumpy.
safeguard
I have a
the future.
3-year-old sitting on my lap.
We are calling on government to tell the truth about climate change and act as if this truth was real. For our children, for our children's children, and for generations to come, we stand together today to demand better from our public officials, to remind them that these
grandchildren in the pram next to the tree. You can see the photos of them. They're in Canberra and they've been locked down because of COVID, and I haven't seen them now for about 5-6 months just before our lockdowns. I've been studying the science of climate change for over 30 years. I've been nice and polite, and I've been trying to make a difference. I've visited politicians, I've written letters, I've done all those nice things. And as Tim Flannery said about 2 years ago, we have failed spectacularly. Nothing has changed, and we have to make the change now. And that's why I'm out on the streets. I will lock myself to a bulldozer up on the Adani site. I will do everything possible in the last 20 odd years that I might have on this planet to try and give my grandchildren a safe and secure future.
We're here in Queen's Garden, passing the mic around.
All my life, I've been arrested so many times. I felt like I would give my life to save this planet, but how do you do that? How do you be effective? How do you put it in the right place? So that's been my life's journey, and I think it's so important that we tell the truth to each other, just like this, because we need to hear each other's stories. Every single one of us is so valuable and special and holds so much wisdom and skills, and we all hold a little piece of the puzzle as to all of our abilities to network, who we know and what we can do and how we can work together. And our love is so strong and deep for our loved ones, for this beautiful planet, for all life, and that's why we're here. So I really think we need to share these hard truths with each other, like how desperate do you feel? How terrified do you feel sometimes on your own, or isolated at home with your computer, your phone, hearing this abysmal news and science and the terrifying reality that we have to face? I get really scared about, in my life, watching millions and billions of people dying from starvation in other countries, desperately trying to come here, of course, and the politics becoming more and more just chaotic, like we've seen with COVID, and just the incredible amount of chaos and pain and suffering that we're going to witness and that we already are witnessing. The confusion that everyone holds, because I think as a society we know that stuff's desperately wrong, and people are looking for solutions. So I'm just so glad that we're here, and I think we need to find ways to honour coming out and honour each other's truth like this. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
People are talking about what's important to them, what they want Susan Ley to hear. Graphic art representations.
So what I would like to say to Susan Ley is, we're stronger than you. We will keep fighting, because what we are fighting for is more important than what you are fighting for.
Beautiful. What we are fighting for is more important than what you're fighting for. A young mum talking about what drives her to do this.
Glenn, I'm probably recognisable to people because I do everything. For Susan Ley, she has a fairly limited view of her environment portfolio. She thinks climate change isn't in it, that's Angus Taylor, or she thinks she's about protecting furry little animals or something, which is fine, but the environment portfolio is a little bit bigger than that. If I can give you a sense of what environment is. The economy is a room, and the environment's the house. The room cannot be bigger than the house. So, I'll just digress for one little threatened species story. This was my awakening some years ago, watching a lay turtle lay her eggs on Monrevo Beach one midnight before Christmas. And I looked around, there were 400 people watching one turtle. And I said, there's your problem. And then it got worse. Those eggs that I saw being laid hatched in February, and in nature 80% only hatch. That's perfectly normal. But what is not natural is that 80% of those 80% died on the beach because the sand was too hot. That is not normal. And then it gets worse, because 99% of those hatchlings were female. So, I witnessed the extinction of one breeding year of turtles. So as a linkage to children, my grandnieces and grandnephews have taken a page and they're funding research into particular turtles.
So this is Brisbane's Duty of Care parade through the city. We've got a group of people who have got prams with art representations of children who are affected very graphically by our fossil fuel future. People who are part of the group are taking turns to talk about what their concerns are and send messages to Susan Ley about why it's important for them to be here today.
Extinction Rebellion, Greater Brisbane, Meanjin are in Queen's Park now, having marched through the city. We're here on the streets today demanding that the government act on their duty of care to protect our children, and in fact all of us. So COP26 in Glasgow is fast approaching. There's, I think, just over a week now until it starts. And it is still looking like our government is preparing to bring something pretty shameful to the table. The COP isn't going to be a hallelujah pass for a safer climate. No one's predicting that. But we really need, for these nation states coming to COP26, the conference of the parties, to be upping the ante on their pledge reductions and then putting their money where their mouth is. Except actually, that's not their money, is it? It's our money. And we're telling them that we want our money spent on transitioning and adapting and protecting our future generations, not on fossil fuel subsidies. We don't want to wait for imaginary technologies. We want our actual taxes to be put to use implementing climate action. We have the technology that we need to keep under 2 degrees of warming. If we just stopped deforesting, stopped destroying mangroves and wetlands, we'd already be moving a big step in the right direction. When the PM says technology, not taxes, that is just kicking the can down the road and feathering the lodge for another term and preparing to ooze into a seat on the board with the fossil fuel companies. The Australian government have been bad neighbours for a long time. Now they're being bad parents, endangering the people who they're supposed to protect. So we've tried rallies, we've done letters, we've done petitions, we've done all the good activist stuff. We've had one-day rallies. We've even set up camp in this very park, actually. And you know what? Emissions are still... So what do we do in the face of that? We acknowledge the emergency. We act like it's an emergency. We decarbonise ASAP. Are you all right?